Jeremy Clarkson is one of the world's most famous authorities on cars. His global popularity is due in part to his 27-year career as host of BBC's Top Gear, easily the most popular and influential automotive show of all time. In its heyday, Top Gear had an estimated 350 million viewers per week who tuned in from over 200 different countries. Clarkson hosted a whopping 399 episodes from 1988 until 2015. But by 2005, Clarkson had upset so many people and groups that The Independent put him on trial for various crimes and declared him guilty. But beyond the car community, Jeremy Clarkson is known as a bigoted, racist homophobe and for being a climate change denier. But to most of the car community, he's a lovable douchebag, the drunk uncle at everyone's holiday table that you hate to love. How did it come to this? Why is Jeremy Clarkson so revered by car enthusiasts, yet reviled by almost everyone else? Are we able to separate the art from the artist? Or are his actions unforgivable? All that and more for today's 150th episode of Past Gas on the legendary, incomparable, and notorious Jeremy Clarkson.
Past Gas Podcast. It's about cars, it's not about forts.
Big thank you to our sponsor this week, Valvoline Motor Oil. Valvoline was America's first motor oil brand, making them the original motor oil. Some recent news, Valvoline now sponsors donut racing Formula Drift driver Adam Knapik. That's right, our shop foreman, our supervisor. You might have seen him in videos. He does some big jobs for us. Well, he also drifts, and Valvoline sponsors him. I think that's so sick. Since Valvoline's founding over 150 years ago, Valvoline and their scientists have been innovating, creating, and reinventing formulas. Valvoline was the exclusive oil used in Model Ts rolling off the assembly line in 1920, and Valvoline has been a part of America's automotive history from the beginning. Wow, so many innovations, including the first high-mileage motor oil, the first racing oil, and the first synthetic blend oil. And as a gentle reminder, all Valvoline oils exceed industry standards to provide the ultimate protection for every engine on the road. Those are just some basic facts about Valvoline, but the real fact is that you need to put that stuff in your car right now. Be like me, put Valvoline in your car and your engine will thank you. Just like I will thank Valvoline for sponsoring this show. Thank you, Valvoline.
150 guys.
That's
wow.
We've done that a lot.
Yeah.
Let's take a trip back in time.
Yeah. To really understand Past Gas, you need to understand
Podcasts.
the wheel.
Yeah.
As, of course, a reference to our 6-part
How's
It was
Angels?
five-part.
where we decided to start with literally the invention of the first two-wheeled vehicle ever. Didn't even have pedals.
Look, I want to apologize. Again, I feel like I've already apologized for the Hells Angels series. It was too long. It was too violent. Very disturbing.
And it was right at the beginning of quarantine.
Oh, dude, I was in it. I was pounding rich energy drinks thanks to Joe here. Who
Yeah, I
ordered
bought
me
him a case and then.
I drank all of them. I drank
Oh my God.
Dude, so many of those episodes of Past Gas during that time were because I was able to pound one of those at like 8 p.m.
Yeah.
and just keep on writing until like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I think it shows.
Yeah, those are definitely late night rants.
Well, yeah, the Hells Angels ones, but also notably the McLaren episodes. I remember pounding one of those. I like rich energy. I think it's a good.
I think
good
it tastes
flavor.
good.
It tastes
it's like it's weird that it didn't.
It's like a nice little cotton candy flavor. It's smoother than Red Bull. For sure. Anyway,
I'm glad you're apologizing for past episodes. You know who doesn't apologize?
yeah,
Jeremy Clarkson.
certainly does not apologize. This guy. What can't you say about Jeremy Clarkson? Just real quick though, I just want to thank you, dear listener. Whether you're a new listener, whether this is your first episode or you've been with us for a long time, I just really want to thank you for sticking by us, listening to the show, supporting the show, telling your friends. Thank you so much. We all in this room love doing podcasts. This is like one of the only not the only times, but it's so fun to just kind of like be free in this medium, you know, like,
and it's cool to see you guys reach out to us and give us feedback and give us big ups. And
Yeah, and when you guys remember jokes that we don't remember saying, it really feels.
I don't remember
good.
jokes from like the last episode I
I black
recorded.
out.
And people were like, "What's up, Uncle Jackie?" in my DMs. And I'm like, "What does that mean?"
Are you a podcast fan or a freak?
But seriously, all your support is so appreciative, and I love doing podcasts. Podcasts are like one of my favorite mediums, and it's so cool that we get to do this. And I can't believe we've made it 150 episodes. Yeah, this is great.
Whenever we do videos, we're trying to get done as fast as possible because we make a lot of videos. And when we do a podcast, our producers have to be like, guys, yeah, enough. Back to the script, guys.
150 episodes. Wow.
But that's almost what, 3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. My name is Nolan Sykes. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm joined by my co-hosts. We got James Pumphrey
I've never seen this man before in my life.
and Joe Weber.
Slime up, wink, wink, army.
Give me back my son. So 150,
150.
huge milestone, and
Talking
a huge
about-
subject to tackle for
That's
this huge
right.
milestone. We've been wanting to do this guy forever, both on the podcast and on our history type of videos on our YouTube channel. And it's a very daunting task,
Very delicate situation.
very delicate because. I mean, if I'm honest with myself and with you guys, I wouldn't do what I do if it weren't for Jeremy Clarkson.
Yeah.
I think he's the best at what we do that's ever
Yes.
been.
No question.
Like he's the GOAT of automotive media. I think anyone out there will agree. And that is reflected in the fact that almost everybody in this forum, everybody in automotive media totally rips him
Yes.
off, myself
Yes.
included.
They started that like three guys razzing each other, but also having fun. And people have tried to copy it, and no one can quite pull it off like they did.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you guys have it pretty down.
At some point, we made the decision to actively not try and be Top Gear because we just knew we never could.
Yeah,
So-
but now you have a great dynamic, and it's not. I mean, it's like an updated version of this where it's less razzing on each other and more just like friends hanging out.
I think every car YouTube channel, is chasing Top Gear at some point, whether they realize it or not. Because at the end of the day, like the format that they came up with, 3 people in a car, is just so good.
It's about as good as it gets.
It's about, it's the archetype for what we do. And Jeremy Clarkson was a huge,
He's a
he was a
great- he's
huge part in
Yeah.
making that happen. Top Gear and Jeremy Clarkson are pretty much inseparable, even though Top Gear was around before Jeremy.
Mm-hmm.
Like he and Andy Willman brought it back and made it what we know today.
Dream Top Gear, Doug DeMuro, Zac Efron,
That's great. Okay.
and Anna Taylor-Joy.
Okay. I want Kevin Hart,
Yeah.
Christy Yamaguchi,
Okay.
and Jim Brewer.
Go boy.
Yeah.
Joey Fatone,
Nice.
Great.
Yeah.
Nice.
In sync.
Joey Badass,
Oh, wow.
Oh.
and Joey from Friends.
That's a good one. We're not just here to talk trash about the current Top Gears, although they're fine. We're here to talk about Jeremy Clarkson, where he came from, who he became, and the reasons why it is so conflicting to have him be I don't look up to anybody really except for him as far as like professional career goes. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Let's do it. Tonight on BBC America.
Tonight on Pascas.
Let's give it a spin.
Jeremy Clarkson was born on April 11th, 1960, surprisingly recently.
Are you trying to get ahead of a tragic death by reading first?
Yeah, I'm sure there's one.
I don't know.
In the town of Doncaster in Yorkshire in northern England, famous for making the pudding that's not really pudding, more of a roll.
Dude, when I was skateboarding, I fell on a rail and had to get a Doncaster.
His father, Edward, was a traveling salesman who specialized in tea cozies, which are jackets for tea, while his mother Shirley worked as a teacher. Though his family had a 4-bedroom farmhouse in an idyllic village, his parents consistently struggled to provide. When it came time to look at schools for Jeremy, his parents put his name down for a number of schools without knowing how they'd make tuition payments. But just before Jeremy turned 13, the year before he would start boarding school, his mother gave him and his sister Joanna a pair of stuffed Paddington bears. The toys were a hit, not just with Jeremy and Joanna. Soon, Edward and Shirley began selling the off-brand Paddington toys all over the country through the family tea cozy business.
So tea cozies are little blankets for your teapot.
Yeah.
And then now you're selling knockoff Paddingtons.
Wait,
Yeah.
the blankets go over, or they
It's
go
a
under?
little, it goes over.
It like
To
I
keep
think
it warm.
keeps it warm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Keeps it cozy.
Yeah.
Hence the name.
Oh, like a beer cozy.
It's like a jumper.
A little
which
romper
is,
for your
a
teapot.
sweater for your teapot.
Yeah.
So she was making these off-brand Paddington bears.
Yeah, Paddington you might know from Paddington 2.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Both those movies are amazing.
Dude, Paddington 2 is a great movie.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the unofficial bear side hustle wasn't exactly legal. And eventually, Michael Bond, the creator of Paddington, found out and sued the Clarksons.
Whoa. That's big bear money coming in.
It's Big Bear.
Yeah. Mike Bond.
Michael Bond, I'll crush your skull like a walnut with my hands.
Don't get me confused with my cute little bears, mate.
I am not playing around. Edward traveled to London to meet with Bond's lawyer, but by sheer coincidence ended up in an elevator, aka a lift, with Bond himself. The two men immediately got along, so much so that Bond not only dropped the lawsuit, but gave Clarkson the licensing rights to keep making their Paddington bears.
Wow.
With the rights in hand, the Clarksons sold their bears to Britain's most popular toy store, Hamleys. And this is how the Clarksons generated enough income to send Jeremy away to the family's first choice boarding school, the prestigious Repton.
Ooh, sounds serious. That's so funny that, hey man, you're actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
How would I give you the license to my bear that I'm actually suing you over?
Yeah.
What a turnaround.
I won't crush your skull like a walnut. Well, I was just talking to Matt, our boss, about this. Like, I was like, do you know how Jeremy Clarkson's family made money? And he was like, that's an amazing story. But he's like, there's a lot of people making donut merch like in China or like elsewhere. And he's like, you can just do it and we'll split the money. Like, he's like, can I just hire you to do it? Because you're doing a good job. Like, I don't know if anyone out there has a merch business, but making physical stuff is very, very hard. And just like the logistics of it are really hard. So often knowing that it doesn't seem, even though it is insane, it doesn't seem that insane.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Jeremy later said he was miserable at Repton School. I was miserable at every school, except the School of Hard Knocks, where I thrived.
Yeah, I got my degree in business at the School of Hard Knocks. My profile picture is me sitting with my sunglasses on in my car.
And I'm giving a finger to whoever.
I'm in
AP
Stone
crack.
Sour.
I'm in AP crack cooking this year.
I'm majoring in the grind mentality. And since he was away from his parents, he started acting out. Though Jeremy never struggled academically, he spent most of his free time drinking, smoking, and generally making a nuisance of himself. Like I said, this guy's my hero. This is kind of what I was doing until recently. Somewhat surprisingly, Jeremy was also a victim of some pretty extreme bullying, which could possibly explain some of the more unappealing parts of his public persona. Though his time at Repton was difficult for Jeremy, it may have been worthwhile in the long run. F1 engineer Adrian Newey and former Top Gear executive producer Andy Willman were his classmates. Now, we'll talk more about Andy later. He's a big part of this story. But eventually, Jeremy's antics caught up to him, and just 2 months before his A-level exams, he was expelled. Okay, so to Americans, A-levels are like your owls. They're a big deal. And so
Nice.
it's tough
Nice.
to get expelled right before them.
Nice pull, dude.
Thank you, man. I'm a Gryffindor Ravenclaw Rising.
What's your Patronus?
My Patronus is
Ooh.
what is my Patronus? Oh, a cobra.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
yours is like a majestic buck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a buck.
Not just like a big deer, but like a big,
Like a reindeer.
really big deer.
yeah, and
Reindeer with
I think
sharp antlers.
I'm a house Hufflepuff.
Really?
Yeah.
And then my Patronus is an octopus.
That's tight.
Yeah.
Dude, that's super tight.
Yeah. They're going to take over the world.
I hope. We're not doing a very good job.
Jeremy had few career options when he left school and moved home to help his parents stuff their little Paddington bears. His parents were obviously furious about his expulsion, but according to Jeremy, I knew something would come along. Something always comes along. It does in my life anyway. Sick. He wasn't wrong. Around this time in 1977, Jeremy passed his driving test, allegedly behind the wheel of his grandfather's R-Type Bentley. He later said, true to his nature, when the examiner told me the previous day that I had passed my test, what I'd actually heard was, "Congratulations, Jeremy. You are, without a shadow of a doubt, the single best driver I've ever seen." I felt invincible. Well, he didn't feel invincible for long. Only 37 hours after he got his license, Jeremy careened his mother's Audi off the road and into a herd of sheep.
Bat.
Yep. Great sound design. But he learned from the experience, and the accident had a profound effect on his driving. He's proud to say he's not had a single accident on the public roads since.
Oh,
I had 3 accidents in high school,
Damn.
and I haven't had one since.
nice, dude. Did you just keep crashing the same car?
I crashed my 240.
Yeah, naturally.
Oh, I had 4 accidents. in high school.
Oh.
And then I crashed my GTI 3 times and totaled it twice. And then
Wait,
wow.
rebuilt
You
it.
fixed it after it was totaled, and then
Yeah. That's what you do when you're 16, 17.
I almost drove into someone's front den or whatever,
Really?
their front living room, but I swerved at the last second and hit their tree in the front yard.
Oh, man. I drove across my friend Brandon's dad's front lawn one time.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
I was blocked in,
Yeah.
and he called me, and he was like, "Hey, did you just drive across my lawn?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "My dad says you're not allowed over for 2 weeks."
Oh, 2 weeks.
Yeah, we used to get banned from each other's houses.
It's summertime. It's the perfect time to bust that grill out, throw some steaks on it. This summer, add some power players to your grilling lineup with ButcherBox. ButcherBox is a subscription service that delivers high-quality meat and seafood right to your doorstep. Choose from a carefully curated selection of 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, wild-caught seafood, and more. My favorite cut of meat is ribeye steak. I throw it in a cast iron pan usually, but this summer I'm probably going to throw some on the grill with a little bit of thyme and rosemary and butter on top. And ButcherBox is so convenient. Every month, ButcherBox ships a curated selection of high-quality meat right to your home. Free shipping for the continental U.S. And as always, there's no antibiotics or added hormones to the meat. It's packed fresh and shipped frozen for your convenience so you can save time on your next grocery store trip. Get summer sizzling started with this special ButcherBox deal for all of our listeners. Free bacon for life of your membership plus $100 off. Sign up today at butcherbox.com/gas and use code BONUS100 to get 1 pack of free bacon in every box for the life of your membership plus $100 off your first order. That's butcherbox.com/gas and use code BONUS100 to claim this deal.
Big thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode of Past Gas. I got a question for you. How well would you take care of your car if you had to keep that same car for the rest of your life? That's how our brains work, so why don't we treat them the same way? How we care for our minds affects how we experience life, so it's important to invest time and care into keeping your brain healthy. There are plenty of ways to support a healthy brain, like learning a new language or taking power naps. There's also BetterHelp online therapy. I personally think that everyone should go to therapy. There shouldn't be a stigma around it. It's a very healthy thing to do. It's literally just talking to someone. I think BetterHelp online therapy makes that super easy. You don't even have to go into an office. You can talk on the phone. You can video chat, all from the comfort of your own home. BetterHelp is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat-only therapy sessions. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. So if you're interested, our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/passgas. That's betterhelp.com/passgas. Thanks, BetterHelp.
There's something about the Clarkson men that puts them in the right place at the right time. Shortly after Jeremy's accident, he ran into an old family friend who was the general manager of the local paper, the Rotherham Advertiser. The two got to talking, and the family friend told him he should apply for the paper. Jeremy had an admittedly slim resume, but as absolute luck would have it, he had an even deeper connection to the paper. His grandfather, a doctor, had delivered the editor's first child during a World War II air raid. The editor was still so grateful for the grandfather's help that he gave Jeremy a job. At first, Jeremy wasn't a great reporter. He often forgot why he was interviewing someone, including a bereaved woman, and couldn't keep up a professional facade to save his life.
According, I just want to see him like forget why he's interviewing a crying woman.
According to Les Payne, a coworker who shared a desk with Jeremy, quote,
"He was a younger version of the Jeremy Clarkson you see on TV. He mucked in with the rest of the office, but he was very much a man who expressed his own opinions. My name's Les Payne. I'll crush your skull like a walnut."
After training at the Advertiser, Jeremy moved on to write for the Rockdale Observer, Wolverhampton Express, and Star, and then Lincolnshire Life and the Associated Kent newspapers. His first outlet as a motor journalist was for the Shropshire Star. Jeremy said, quote,
"I started small on the Shropshire Star with little Peugeots and Fiats and worked my way up to Ford Granadas and Rovers until about 7 years I was allowed to drive an Aston Martin Lagonda. It was 10 years before I drove my first Lamborghini." Dude, if that's the case, I'm kicking his ass.
Yeah.
I drove a Lamborghini in Italy after like 3 years.
You drove the Pagani.
I drove a Pagani Huayra BC after 2 years.
That's crazy. Good timeline.
Good timeline. I've never even driven a Ford Granada.
Regardless of timelines, Jeremy couldn't shake the feeling that he didn't want to work for anyone else. Jeremy was living in Fulham and was surrounded by small businesses. He just needed an idea to start his own. The final straw came when he came home from work to his then-girlfriend and started telling her about the new office furniture.
"I knew at that moment that I had to leave."
Jeremy later told BBC Radio 4,
"Because when new office furniture becomes so important that you even mention it, pack your bags, get out, move 200 miles away." He doesn't always talk like that.
No.
I'm working on the subtleties of that.
Yeah. We'll work through it. In 1984, at age 24, oh, he's younger than my mom. That is crazy. Jeremy finally made
He
the
looks way older than your mom.
Yeah.
Like if someone was like Jeremy Clarkson, 75 years old.
Yeah,
I'd be
you
like,
believe it.
Yeah.
He looks, I think it's because he's probably smokes like 2 packs a day, honestly.
Not anymore, but he did for a long time.
Those Brits love their ciggies. At age 24, Jeremy finally made the leap and founded the Motoring Press Agency alongside fellow journalist Jonathan Gill and started conducting road tests for local newspapers and automotive magazines. Oh, interesting. So it's like a private, you're a contractor, basically. That's kind of cool. In 1986, Jeremy became a regular contributor to...
He's basically like a motor journalist, like pimp.
Sure. I thought you were going to say like a normal freelancer today, but,
No, but
motorist pimp is also good.
Didn't he have people working for him that he would send out?
Oh, probably, yeah. In 1986, Jeremy became a regular contributor to Performance Car Magazine, a gig he kept up until 1993. 3 years later, in 1987, Jeremy was hit with the Clarkson family luck once more when he met Top Gear researcher John Bentley at a Citroën launch. Citroën is a French car company. We don't really mention them that often on anything we do.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Well, they do make some fast front-wheel drive. The only time we mention them is when they break like a Nürburgring record for like the fastest front-wheel drive car.
And I think Sebastian Loeb, another driver we don't really talk about that much.
We should do an episode on
rally
Sebastian
cars.
Loeb.
Yeah, he drove rally cars for Citroën for a long while, and they dominated. They're great cars.
Let us know if you want us to do an episode on Sebastian Loeb.
Or Citroën.
Very fun.
Citroën.
Well, we promise we'll learn how to say it before.
Citroën.
Citroën. Citroën. Fiat.
John Bentley later said that Jeremy was, quote,
"Was just what I was looking for. An enthusiastic motoring writer who could make cars on telly fun. He was opinionated and irreverent rather than respectfully po-faced. The fact that he looked and sounded exactly like a 20-something ex-public school boy didn't matter. Nor did the impression there was a hint of school bully about him. I knew he was the man for the job. It's safe to say, if you know who Jeremy Clarkson is, it's from Top Gear. But Top Gear as a show had existed for a full 11 years before Jeremy signed on. I had always wondered about this. If you've never seen it, old Top Gear focused on key motoring-related topics that could be explained in a 30-minute format, including road tests of new cars, consumer advice, road safety, and motorsport.
It was very, like, if you've seen Motor Week, like,
Yeah.
older, it was kind of like that.
The new Pontiac Grand Prix.
Yeah. I love, is it John Davis? Name?
Maybe.
Is that Garfield guy?
Yeah,
Jonathan Davis from Korn.
Yeah, also hosted Motoring Week.
The engine sound is great. It's like,
dude.
boo, rah, rah, rah.
There were also a number of specials focused on different motoring events, like the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the British International Motor Show. But the show was missing a bit of space.
Much like British cooking.
Yeah. Damn.
Nice.
Nice. That's
Roasted.
a little bit of personality, a little bit of humor. Jeremy joined the team in 1988 and co-hosted primarily alongside former F1 driver Tiff Needell, Tom Boswell, and Tony Mason. Though he was a little stiff in his early episodes, he soon loosened up and grew into the authentic, hilarious, and controversial host that millions love or hate.
Ooh.
This transformation was clear in his clothing, too. Originally, Jeremy wore a blazer, tie, and chinos, but soon he trashed those for his signature tight jeans and leather jacket.
Oh, yeah. I think there's a lot to be said for Jeremy's wardrobe. You know, people kind of rag on James for his...
Yeah.
James May, not
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
James. James
and
May.
Richard Hammond.
And Richard Hammond for their clothing options, but, like, Jeremy's is...
It's
all-
pretty wild
yeah.
sometimes. And if you look at those old Top Gear episodes, he looks like Lars Ulrich. He looks like a giant Lars Ulrich. He's got, like, big hair.
Oh, he had a huge curly afro,
Yeah,
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
had a big curly afro, and he would wear, like, a biker jacket.
Yeah.
And he was probably, I mean, definitely younger than me, probably younger than Nolan. He's probably early 20s, mid 20s.
Whoa, yeah.
So it was totally appropriate for him to wear that, but
Yeah,
he
he-
already looked 45.
Yeah.
So he looked like a dork.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. It's because he looks so much older than he is. It just
Yeah.
doesn't match. Yeah, because he joins when he's 28 years old. He joins Top Gear.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, that's when he gets... So he's 30.
Yeah, he's 30 wearing a leather jacket,
Yeah.
which is totally appropriate.
Sure.
For a
yeah.
30-year-old.
That's
yes.
a 30-year-old jacket right there.
Yeah. But
He looks 45,
Yeah.
so he already looks like a dork.
that's crazy. Wow. That makes so like, everything, it's like clicking into place. The age thing.
Yeah.
That's what wow.
The program grew in popularity once Jeremy joined the cast, and he quickly became notorious for his blunt criticisms of cars he didn't like. For example, when it came time to cover the Vauxhall Vectra, he told viewers, "I have to fill 7 minutes with a car that doesn't merit 7 seconds." To be clear, this is probably one of the least offensive things that Jeremy has ever said on camera, but it's a great example of how he won the trust of car lovers across the world. Things were going great for Jeremy professionally. But off camera was a different story. In 1989, he married his first wife, Alex Hall, who left him only 6 months later for one of his friends.
Hmm.
He didn't find love again until May 1993 when he married his manager, Frances Kane. The couple had 3 children. They were married for over 20 years. They divorced in 2014.
Mm.
But back in the 90s, 1993 was a good year for Jeremy. Not only did he get married to his longtime partner, but he made his first independent special outside of his main gig at Top Gear with Clarkson Star Cars. Great name. The 4-part series focused on cars made famous by television, like Thunderbirds, Fab 1, or the Ford Capri used by the professionals. We tried to make a show like this a bunch of times
Yeah.
called Hero Cars. Never really worked. In 1995, he fronted 2 6-part series of BBC's Clarkson's Motor World about car cultures around the world. We've also tried to make that show.
See, it's flat circle, man.
Yeah, as well as Jeremy Clarkson's Motorsport Mayhem, his first straight-to-video about the thrills of motorsport. In 1996, he released VHS exclusives, more Motorsport Mayhem, And Jeremy Clarkson unleashed on cars, which followed him as he tried to find the world's best car.
You wouldn't like if I was unleashed on cars.
It's such a flashback to have like VHS series,
I know.
like Dorf on golf.
That doesn't hold up anymore.
No. 1997 brought Apocalypse Clarkson, also a VHS release, which was about his journey to find both the best and worst cars in the world. Then in 1998, Jeremy's career really picked up steam. He released Jeremy Clarkson's Extreme Machines, a 6-part series where Jeremy drives some of the most impressive record-breaking powerboats, military planes. He drives a plane?
Yeah, that Dorf is in that episode.
Super tankers and model cars. He
Ooh.
drives model cars? He also hosted the first season of Robot Wars.
Hell yeah.
Hell
dude.
yeah. A series where teams of amateur and professional roboteers made robots fight, which sounds a lot cooler than it was.
Yeah.
You can basically
It's
just like
still
run
fun,
2 RC
yeah.
cars into each other.
And one of them has just like a shovel.
Dude,
Yeah.
the wedge always wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta make a wedge robot for sure.
But the year wasn't without its own set of troubles. Jeremy started to gather the kind of notoriety that people in the car community are probably used to from him, meaning that he said something that crossed the line and had to apologize. Hyundai UK filed an official complaint with the BBC when Jeremy made, quote, a bigoted and racist comments at the motor show in Birmingham. Dude, do you know how bad it's got to be for like a company to go talk to your company and be like, hey, he said some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what he
Like
said was pretty bad.
Yeah, it's not just like I would never make an offhanded comment at dinner, but like it's not like an eye roll. You know, it's like we need to take action on this. While at the Top Gear stand, Jeremy had apparently claimed that Hyundai's staff had all eaten dog, and then specifically alleged that the designer of the XG had probably eaten a spaniel for lunch. He also called the Germans Nazis a few times. In response to the complaint, a BBC spokesman replied, Jeremy's colorful comments are always entertaining, but they are his own comments, not those of the BBC. More often than not, they are said with a twinkle in his eye.
See, I think this is
What?
like
That's a terrible
Yeah.
apology.
Why would you
He-
start with Jeremy's comments are always entertaining?
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
he's like, okay, let's just all agree that it was hilarious.
Yeah.
right? All right, but we don't mean it.
I think we're gonna see this pattern. And this is kind of like how everyone goes to bat for Jeremy. Is like he is very funny and very charming. So for some reason that makes it okay,
Yeah.
which it doesn't make it okay.
Well, I think it was also a theme of like white men in entertainment
mm-hmm.
for a shockingly recent
Till like
time.
2 years ago.
Yeah, like watch any of the movies that were like formative when we were in like middle school and high school.
4 white guys.
Yeah, it's like 4 white guys and like really racist stuff, really homophobic
Yeah.
stuff, really sexist stuff. Like American Pie does not hold up.
No.
As you can see, despite his tendency to put his foot in his mouth, the BBC loved him to a sort of terrible degree. In 1998, they gave him his own talk show, Clarkson, which aired on BBC Two. The show ran 27 half-hour episodes from November 1998 till December 2000 and featured guest interviews with musicians, politicians, and TV personalities. The show is considered controversial and received tons of formal network complaints, but garnered Jeremy the kind of fame that he was after. He seemed to get off on being offensive and poking at people, even though he later suggested that people probably found his shock tactics tedious. But that doesn't mean he'd stop being Jeremy Clarkson. Not for a long shot.
I think for a lot of Americans, we don't realize how big a personality or like
All of the guys.
media presence. Yeah, all of them. Like
All of them host like multiple specials.
so many different shows.
James May still putting out shows.
Yes. Like,
Jeremy
they were-
Clarkson has like tons of like history specials.
Mhm.
Like they're all like really smart guys.
Mhm.
Like unlike a lot of American media personalities, like they're all like really good writers with like really interesting interests. Like Jeremy Clarkson has done like a feature length special on like the Battle of the Bulge. They all are super, super famous. Jeremy left Top Gear in 1999 and decided to burn it all to the ground in his weekly newspaper column, calling Birmingham, where the show was filmed, the armpit that masquerades as Britain's second city.
Birmingham.
Chicago.
You know why they call it the second city? where the first city burned down.
Oh.
And then they built on top of it.
Oh, really?
That's why it's
Oh.
called the second city.
Wow. Del
Whoa.
close. Zip.
Yep.
What's up?
These are deep improv jokes for everybody out there. Jeremy went on to host another single 6-episode series called Clarkson's Car Years about different defining moments of motoring, as well as a VHS DVD exclusive called Jeremy Clarkson at Full Throttle, where he drives experimental cars and offers his opinions on them.
I think it's brilliant.
In 2001, he released Speed, another single 6-episode series about the history of different fast vehicles, as well as Clarkson's top 100 cars, the premise of which is self-explanatory. Jeremy Clarkson ranks 99 cars.
There's like 25 shows that he hosts, and everything is just slightly different.
Yeah, it's all the same. Yeah. Motoring Madness.
Motoring mayhem.
Motoring Mayhem. Crazy cars. Cars gone crazy. Wheels gone wild. Meanwhile, at Top Gear, James May took over for Jeremy. But audience figures quickly fell from a peak of 6 million to under 3 million viewers before the show was canceled in 2001.
He's a big draw.
Yeah. So, don't fire your main host.
Mm-hmm. But Top Gear didn't die there. The BBC decided to relaunch the show in 2002 with a new spin, thanks to Jeremy and his producer/friend from Repton, Andy Willman. It wasn't actually that the BBC just decided out of nowhere.
They put together a pitch.
They put together a pitch.
Jesse to me. Got it. So he writes all the emails and makes sure that stuff gets done. Even if I don't feel like doing it, Jesse's like, you have to.
So, like, I think Clarkson's definitely the heart of Top Gear.
Uh-huh.
Willman is the brain. You can't really talk about Clarkson and Top Gear without mentioning Andy Willman. Like, he kind of goes under the radar in a lot of discussions about the show, but he's
the Larry David to Clarkson's Seinfeld.
Yes, exactly. And after the show was canceled, in 2001, they kind of, Andy Willman, left, but, he very much considered it his show, even though he didn't start the show. He's like, okay, we're going to bring it back. Like, we didn't do it right the first time. We were still finding our bearings, but we have May, we have Jeremy. Let's do it for real this time. Bigger budget, bigger everything. Let's make the biggest show in the world. There's a great book called On That Bombshell that I listened to. It's all about behind the scenes of Top Gear. It's written by this guy named Richard Porter, who was Top Gear's script editor for 13 years. And he was pretty much on board with Top Gear from the very beginning of the second iteration that we're about to talk about. And that's where I got that little piece of information. So
in summary, the Bernie to the Elton John.
Yeah. So they came back to BBC, pitched it, and now they're going to go with it. So yes, they decided to relaunch the show in 2002. Willman and Clarkson developed a mainly studio-based format that would focus on banter between the presenters. Those presenters, Jeremy, of course, Richard Hammond, nicknamed the Hamster for his name and small stature, and of course, auto journalist Jason Daw. Not James May. James May had initially declined to offer to host the show, but then saw how well the first season did and joined then. It's funny watching that very first season of Top Gear, the reboot with Jason Daw, because you're like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
He's okay. He's okay, but May was definitely meant to be there.
He's no May.
Needless to say, the show was a hit. The new iteration of Top Gear became the most watched show on BBC Two, with over 6 million viewers on the home network alone. Worldwide, the show aired in more than 200 countries with an estimated audience of 350 million people at its peak, I should say, not early on.
That's every single country.
That's
I thought there were only 194 countries. Our producer's telling us that the U.S. only recognizes 195 countries.
Well, it's like 32 people work at Donut,
Yeah.
and I only recognize like 12 of them. JK, everyone here works really hard, and I appreciate everything that everyone does.
Top Gear has been listed by the Guinness World Records as the highest viewed factual television show in the world and generated about £50 million a year for the corporation's commercial arm, BBC Worldwide. It was a massive success. Of course, it wasn't like that overnight. It took about 10 to 14
It's a
seasons
show
to get there.
about cars,
Yes.
and it's one of the biggest television shows on the planet.
Yeah. Also, Richard Porter loves to say, in his book, I think he makes this joke like 3 times about the most factual factual program. He's like, I don't think we were factual.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cheeky.
Yeah, pretty good. It's a great book. Check it out.
But 350 million people is insane.
That's a lot of people.
I mean, it's less views than we get. Wait, on a single episode,
On a
350?
Yeah. They're killing us, dude.
Dude, they're like killing Mr. Beast.
Yeah. In 2002, Clarkson hosted Jeremy Clarkson Meets the
On a
Neighbors,
single episode.
Yeah.
350. Wow.
where he drove a 1960s Jaguar E-Type.
They didn't even have to build a Willy Wonka factory.
No, they did not. Where he drove a 1960s Jaguar E-Type around 6 European countries. The show has been criticized that it's basically just Jeremy driving around and confirming his own xenophobia. But the Jag looks good. He's probably just talking shit
About France.
about Spain. He's like, what is paella?
Oh, what is paella? Why do they do lunch for so long?
He also hosted Clarkson No Limits, where Jeremy gives driving demonstrations on things like how to stay in control when going sideways or how to pull the most G's when you're cornering. Some cars featured in the special include the Lamborghini Murcielago, the new TVR Tuscan R, the Mitsubishi Evo 2, and the Bentley Arnage. In 2003, Jeremy further explored his passion for modern examples of engineering in speed and extreme machines.
Still all the same.
It's all the
titles.
same shit.
Those are literally two of his old shows combined to make one new show.
He also,
Like such machismo.
yeah.
It's like big balls in the car. Jeremy Clarkson, strong arms.
This car will give you big bollocks. He also regularly participated as a panelist for the aptly named Grumpy Old Men, a show about middle-aged men talking about any issues of modern life that irritated them.
Give him a voice.
I'm sure, dude.
Finally.
I bet that show. I bet that show's aged so well.
Give
Yeah.
them a voice. I need to know what they think, dude.
The thing about Generation X is they don't understand how finances work.
Although, based on my health history, I am probably middle-aged right now.
Oof. I have the eyes of a 40-year-old.
Do you?
Yeah, that's enough.
Where do you keep them? Where'd
That's
you get
for
'em?
that's for me to know and for you to
I want
find
to
out.
see.
Shopping for new clothes can be time-consuming and stressful. I know I always get stressed out when I'm at the store, so why not let Stitch Fix do all the work so you can just spend more time doing the things you love and not worrying about fashion or what you're gonna wear. It's easy and fun to get started. First, take a few minutes to set up your Stitch Fix style profile, answer a few questions about what you like to wear, what you don't, and how open you are to trying new styles. Then Stitch Fix's expert stylist will go to work, finding items exclusively for you. Every piece is handpicked for you and is unique to your size, style, and fits in your budget, making it the best way to discover clothes that make you look and feel your best. Plus, there's no subscription required. Try once or set up automatic deliveries. There are no hidden fees ever. I really like Stitch Fix. I did the quiz. It was super easy. I bought a couple items off of it. I got a bunch of compliments. The pants I bought were amazing. Highly recommend. Sign up today at stitchfix.com/gas to get $20 off your first purchase. That's stitchfix.com/gas to get $20 off your first purchase. Limited time offer, purchase within 2 days of sign up.
Another thank you to our sponsor this week, Valvoline Motor Oil, and their new Extended Protection Full Synthetic Motor Oil. It's their best oil ever. Valvoline Extended Protection is specially formulated with dual defense additive technology, which combines an innovative additive booster with a fortified detergent system. Guys, this stuff is 10 times stronger against oil breakdown and has 50% better wear protection than industry standards. As oil ages in your car, it gets thicker and thicker, whether that be contaminants or heat breaking it down. This stuff right here, this Valvoline Extend Protection, protects against that 10 times better than industry standards. It helps your engine grow old without acting old. I've got this in my car, and she's running like a dream. You know, I can see my car lasting probably another 50,000 miles, to be honest. And with this stuff right here, this Valvoline Extend Protection, it's going to help me get there. So thank you, Valvoline, for sponsoring the show and for helping my car grow old. In 2004, Jeremy released another series called Inventions That Changed the World.
That's a great one. I've actually seen this one. It's very good. It's on Amazon if you want to check it out.
Sick.
Most of this stuff is probably on Amazon.
Yeah. And a VHS DVD exclusive called Clarkson Hot Metal.
No!
Where he compared 80s cars with their modern counterparts and then blew up a Ford Scorpio with an RPG.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. We should do an RPG.
Have you ever seen Dark Tourist?
No.
It's a
Tickled,
really good.
made by the same guy.
Same guy made Tickled, but he does like offbeat tourism things. But one of them is going to, I think, Cambodia to blow up a cow with an RPG is like a tourist thing to do. And he gets there, he can't do it. He's like, I can't. There's no way.
What is he? He doesn't eat meat?
No, he's just like, I'm not gonna blow this cow up.
He's from New Zealand, so I think he has a different view on that sort of stuff.
He's really like the way he analyzes stuff.
He's great.
Is really cool.
Yeah. David Ferrier, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's great. Jeremy also released the first of 8 volumes of his book series, The World According to Clarkson, which is a collection of his Sunday Times columns, which I'm also sure have aged very well. Also around this time, Jeremy kicked off a decade-long feud with British journalist Piers Morgan.
Hell yeah.
Fuck Piers Morgan.
After the latter, Piers Morgan, published photos of Jeremy with a woman who wasn't his wife. Jeremy responded by pouring a glass of water on Morgan's lap on the final flight of the Concorde in 2003.
See, dude, that's tight.
As Jeremy, I think this is...
Because he knows that there's going to be pictures taken of that flight when they get off. And it's going to look like Piers Morgan peed his pants.
As Jeremy left the plane, he told other journalists that the idiot's wet himself. Then, a year later, Jeremy punched Piers Morgan 3 times in the head at the British Press Awards, scarring Morgan's left eyebrow. The two eventually made up in 2014 during a 5-hour drinking session at a pub in West London, citing that neither of them had the energy to keep up the feud.
It is hating on someone really takes a lot of energy.
It does.
So, we mentioned in the opening that even though Jeremy Clarkson is a hero to many of us in the car community, he is undeniably a problematic one. And during this second iteration of Top Gear, Jeremy kicked his foot and mouth offensiveness to a whole other level. The list of offenses is long, but kind of necessary to address. We're going to keep it chronological and somewhat simplified because he gets himself in trouble a lot. For a long time, Jeremy Clarkson was the enemy of environmentalists everywhere, so much so that in the fall of 2005, when Jeremy was presented with an honorary doctorate for engineering from Oxford Brookes University, he was also presented with a banana meringue pie to the face by an environmentalist.
Got him.
Yeah.
Got him.
However, Jeremy took this incident in good humor, responding.
I agree with environmentalists, but it seems there's every protest they do is so lame.
Well, also, where the fuck do you get a banana meringue pie? I've never even heard of that.
Lovely though.
Sounds good.
Jeremy took this banana pie incident in good humor, responding "good shot" and subsequently referring to the protester as "banana girl." Got her. But
Roasted.
it wouldn't be long before Jeremy found himself in trouble with polite society once more. While talking about a new Mini Cooper on Top Gear that was considered quintessentially German because BMW made it, Jeremy made a Nazi salute and then suggested that the Mini's GPS only goes to Poland.
Oh my God.
In 2005, for the 7th season of Top Gear, Jeremy drove the Bugatti Veyron in a race across Europe against a Cessna airplane. It's a pretty good episode. The Veyron was Volkswagen's £850,000, over $1 million, technology project built as the fastest production car in the world that could still feel practical on the road. Jeremy won the race against the plane, but said, quote,
"It's quite a hollow victory, really, because I've got to go for the rest of my life, knowing that I'll never own that car. I'll never experience that power again." Allegedly,
he reached 240 miles per hour, but ultimately ran out of road. In 2006, Jeremy voiced the UK version of Harv from Cars, the computer voice, and then drummed up more controversy when he used the phrase ginger beer, which is rhyming slang for queer, in a derogatory manner after an audience member's description of the Daihatsu Copen as being a bit gay. Jeremy also released another special, Clarkson, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, in which he pits European supercars against America's finest, including a race up a mountain between a Cadillac Escalade, a Hummer H2, and a Range Rover, and a head-to-head race between a BMW Z4M and a Dodge Viper SRT10. Then he blows up a Harley Davidson for good measure.
Nice.
I rented one of those Z4Ms on New Year's Day with Max, and it's really cool.
I bet. 2007 was a big year overall for Jeremy. It was his first appearance on The Guardian's Media 100 list, which lists the most powerful people in the industry. He came in at 74, not only in looks. That's like an Amy Schumer roast joke. Jeremy and James May became the first people to reach the North Magnetic Pole in a car. Great episode.
That's so good.
As shown in the Top Gear Polar Special. The cars used to reach the pole were two 2007 Toyota Hilux double cab 3-liter diesel pickup trucks, Toyota Land Cruiser 120, and a trailer, all of which were heavily modified by an Icelandic company, Arctic Trucks. The special wasn't without its criticisms, of course. The BBC Trust wasn't too happy with the hosts for a scene that showed them driving in a vehicle on top of international frozen waters. Jeremy turned to the camera and said, "Please do not write to us about drinking and driving, because I'm not driving, I'm sailing."
Yeah, they're like drinking champagne because
Yeah.
they made it.
It's funny. That same year, the Top Gear team faced one of their greatest challenges when the three hosts, alongside Top Gear driver The Stig, decided to participate in the 24 Hours of Silverstone, hosted by Brit Carr. The team drove a BMW 330D, and despite ending in 39th out of 60 total cars, they placed third in their class, which is very impressive.
Another great episode. I think they crashed their car into the Mosler at one point.
Oh, no. Is that a diesel 330?
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
That's an E46 diesel car.
And they had the classic gag of the doors open, and one of the doors says penis, and the other one says arse.
Wow.
Yeah, as the sponsors.
Mm-hmm. Well, we did that with the Money Pit car.
Yeah, we ripped them off.
But ours was, our sponsor wouldn't let us put 69 on it, so we put 6 on one door and 9 on the other.
Yeah.
Got him.
Pretty funny if you know what that means. It's a thing you do in high school or something, I guess. And then
Well, Henry
get
Ford.
over it. Oh, Henry Ford would 69 with Edison all the time.
And Teddy Roosevelt was
Teddy-
there.
Was he?
I mean, sure.
Jeremy also wrote and presented Jeremy Clarkson, The Greatest Raid of All Time, a documentary about the World War II Operation Chariot, a 1942 commando raid on the docks of the Saint Nazaire in occupied France. This particular special was fully in his wheelhouse, as several of his specials and many Clarkson-focused Top Gear spots have military theme. Boomers, love, World War II.
Yeah.
I forgive it a little bit, though. I mean, World War II was a huge thing, especially if you lived in Europe. Like,
Yeah.
London got bombed.
Mm-hmm.
So even with like the Nazi stuff, like, I don't think we should let Germany off the hook totally for being Nazis. Like, they fucking tried to take over the world twice
Mm-hmm.
last century. Italians were Nazis too, so
I think they're so into it because it was the last great like victory for good.
mm-hmm.
Like
yeah, now everything's like politicized and
Yeah.
kind of like over weird stuff like oil. For example, you may have seen Clarkson escape a Challenger 2 tank in a Range Rover or evade missile lock from an Apache attack helicopter. On a related note, by the end of the year, Jeremy became a patron of Help for Heroes, a charity aiming to raise money to provide better facilities to wounded British servicemen.
The military ones, like those episodes, the tank ones, or like they're trying to get across or go through that town without getting hit by like
Yeah, I
the
don't like
SA.
them.
Those are like
They're
the
so
boring
lame.
ones. Yeah, they're pretty boring, honestly.
Yeah.
But
I like the
because
adventure ones.
yeah, the adventure ones,
They're trying
those
to
are
find
cooler.
the beginning of water
yeah,
in
and
Africa.
like you kind of have to look at the military ones through like the lens of at that time in the early 2000s is like Britain was involved in the like Iraq invasion.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was like kind of carrying water for the military at that
Right.
time, where it's like, hey, isn't this sick?
It's an op.
Yeah.
It's
I think
100% an op.
My favorite episode that stands out is the one where they went to America and got muscle cars, and then it was also kind of problematic because they
Isn't
spray
that Grand
painted.
Tour?
Oh, was it Grand Tour?
Well, they
They've
went
done
to
it a
America
couple
a few
times.
different times. So the first time was the NASCAR drivers are puffs incident that
And
you're
then
talking
they-
about.
yeah,
that was
it
just
got
with like
in-
regular crummy cars.
They almost got their asses beat.
Yeah, at the gas station. Then they came back again a few years later. That's when they drove muscle cars. They had
Okay,
the
I'm getting them
Challenger, Camaro,
confused.
Mustang.
Like classic ones.
No, like the new ones.
Oh,
and then
was
they came
that
back.
Top Gear?
That was Top Gear.
Okay.
And then they came back. They've come back again for
Grand Tour.
Tour, where they did basically the same thing.
That was like the premiere of Grand Tour.
Yeah. They went to Detroit.
Right.
Yeah.
Detroit. A city strange for like
They call it. They call it Motor Town.
If you again, just back to the influence of Top Gear, almost every car YouTube and TV show with cars in it has that editing style.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
that's the way you shoot cars now.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's a new one.
In 2008, an internet petition was posted on the Prime Minister's number 10 website to make Jeremy Clarkson Prime Minister. By the time it closed, it attracted 49,446 signatures, which is not a lot. Jeremy later commented he would be a rubbish Prime Minister, as he's always contradicting himself in his columns. That same year, Jeremy pissed off the Labour Party, who he is consistently very critical of, when he made an off-color joke about how lorry drivers murder sex workers. That is an off-color joke.
I feel like he did that one a lot on Top Gear.
Probably.
Yeah.
A politician, that's bad. A politician in Ipswich, where 5 sex workers were murdered in 2006, wrote a strongly worded letter to BBC demanding they fire Clarkson. Jeremy addressed the controversy in his Sunday Times column the next weekend, writing, "There are more important things to worry about than what some balding and irrelevant middle-aged man might have said on a crappy BBC Two morning show."
This is a model of defense, which I'm not a huge fan of, where it's like people either sidestepping or downplaying their own influence.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You're one of the biggest people in media.
Yeah. Millions of people watch what you say every week. Like, you can't pretend you don't have accountability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This obviously wasn't his first time frustrating British politicians, nor would it be his last. Jeremy kept at it in July 2009 when he was reported to have called then British Prime Minister Gordon Brown a silly during a warm-up while recording Top Gear. But come on. Joe Biden's a silly
Yeah. I mean, it is different because it's in Britain.
Yeah.
You know, Britain's a very polite, posh kind of focused place, you know?
Yeah, if you watch British reality shows versus American, you can definitely see it.
Mm-hmm.
He had previously called PM Brown a one-eyed Scottish idiot, which got him in trouble with the Royal National Institute of Blind People and many Scottish politicians. 2009 was also the year that an activist group named Climate Rush dumped horse manure on his lawn to protest his tirades against environmentalism. In 2010, for his series Speed,
Aptly named.
yeah, Jeremy installed an English Electric Lightning F1A jet fighter in the front garden of his Oxfordshire home. The Lightning was later removed on the orders of the local council, which wouldn't believe my claim that it was a leaf blow-up. Then in a Top Gear episode that aired in August, Jeremy described a Ferrari F430 as special needs. Well, at least he didn't say the R word. And said the car, which was owned by James May, made him look like a simpleton. BBC fielded the resultant complaints once more.
What does that mean? Fielded? And then just...
Yeah, they were like, yeah, I mean, but he's
at least he didn't say the R word.
He didn't say the R word, and he said it with a twinkle in his eye. He makes us very much money.
Yeah. That's kind of the thing.
At
It's
the
like,
end of the day, we don't have anyone else to replace him with to give us as much money.
The BBC.
got is Russell Brand.
Yeah, the BBC is Top Gear. Then you have like weird panel shows called like QI where they make jokes about current events.
Yeah.
You have gardening shows, and then you have
Graham Norton.
Graham Norton and Idris Elba.
Yeah.
That one show.
Oh,
like,
Benedict Cumberbatch.
that's all they have. And
Yeah.
like only one of those.
Downton Abbey.
But like only one of those is like making money. And that's Top
Yeah.
Gear.
Top Gear is probably way cheaper to make than Downtown Abbey.
No, actually, Top Gear eventually, like, the budget was so big for the show that,
Yeah.
like, the government had to step in because
What?
the
Really?
BBC was spending so much money
Is
on
this
Top
the
Gear.
It's a
book you read?
public,
Yeah, I mean, it's public, yeah.
Company.
Yeah.
In 2011, Jeremy was ranked 49th out of 50 on Motor Trends magazine's Power List of 2011.
Even
Are you
at that time, it should have been
Are
like
you
number one.
kidding me?
Come
Number
on.
one. I bet David Freiberger got ranked higher than he did. Then Finnegan. He also appeared in Forza Motorsport 4
Yep.
and released his final video release, Clarkson Powered Up,
Oh, yeah.
where he attempts to find his favorite car of the year while on a Formula One testing circuit in
Oh,
France.
Circuit Paul Ricard, I imagine.
I love Paul Ricard. He makes the best seasonings. Vehicles driven included the Ferrari 458 Italia, McLaren MP412C, and Nissan GTR.
I've got to figure out what my favorite car of this year is. That's his pitch.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
he brought to BBC.
Buy my 6 VHSs. Jeremy, it's 2011.
He also continued his grand tradition of offending just about everybody. In September, he argued that the UN should seriously consider abolishing other languages like Welsh, stating all it does is provide a silly maypole around which a bunch of hotheads can get all nationalistic. Then in November, while being interviewed on BBC's The One Show, he referenced public sector workers striking over pensions and joked, "I would take them outside and execute them in front of their families."
That's bad.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not really a joke.
That's not even
That's not
funny.
a joke at all. That's a threat. The remarks got over 21,000 complaints to the BBC within 36 hours. Then, in a column for The Sun in December, he described people who jump in front of trains as Johnny Suicide and argued that the train shouldn't stop to allow first responders to collect their bodies. He's getting worse.
Wow.
It was more gratuitous and graphic than that, but you get the picture. What? Whoa! Whoa! I would. Because if you think about it.
Don't you see the twinkle in my eye?
Now, aside from the fallout after making a series of jokes about Indian culture on the Top Gear Christmas special, as well as frustrating a group called Changing Faces that supports people with facial disfigurements, 2012 was a pretty quiet year for Jeremy Clarkson. In 2013,
Jesus.
he was one of 2,000 attendees at Margaret Thatcher's funeral, as well as a presenter on Forza Motorsport 5. Then in 2014, during Top Gear's Patagonia special, this was tough. Jeremy candidly revealed that he drove the Porsche 928 to the hospital to his father's deathbed. He claimed that if he had not taken the Porsche, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to say goodbye to his dad. And that's me reading a death.
Wow.
On an entirely unsympathetic note, in 2014, is it the Patagonia one with the license plate?
I think so. But they go to Argentina, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
Yeah, there's like
Yeah.
a problematic license plate referring to
The Falklands War. Yeah. So the story on that is the guy. Okay, the book that I listened to, Richard Porter's On That Bombshell. They are like adamant that it was a coincidence. Like it was a literal international incident between Argentina and Britain. Both the actual Falklands War and this. Like, I think they're circling the wagons still and being like, it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Like,
There's no way.
they will never admit that was on purpose, and it had to. Dude, it's Top Gear.
Yeah.
They did this shit all the time.
Yeah.
It had to have been.
And they thought it was so clever.
Okay, so what happened was that one of the cars had a license plate on it that's, I think it was like FLK, and then the year that the Falklands War happened or something like that. which in itself was like a huge, again, international incident, conflict between Britain and Argentina. Still controversial, especially in Argentina. So to have that license plate was obviously poking the bear a little bit, trying to get a rise out of people.
Yeah, so that was a big deal. On an entirely unsympathetic note, in 2014, some unaired footage from Top Gear revealed that Jeremy had used the N-word while taping in 2012. It was later reported that the BBC, fed up with his antics over the years, gave Jeremy his final warning, Jeremy. No more times, no matter how bright that twinkle is. If you don't clean up, you will be fired.
Jeremy Clarkson had offered up his irreverent opinions countless times, to backlash from advocacy groups to environmentalists to liberal politicians. But still, the BBC stuck by him because that freaking twinkle in his eye. Sure, Jeremy was problematic, but he was their star. The reason people seemed to love him was for the very opinions that others hated him for. But in March 2015, enough was enough. After a day shooting an episode of Top Gear, a day that Jeremy later described as, quote,
the most stressful day I had ever had in 27 years at the BBC.
The host returned to the Symonston Hall Hotel in Yorkshire Dales, hoping to have a steak for dinner. Since it was 10 p.m., the hotel chef had already gone home, so Jeremy was offered a soup and a cold meat platter. Jeremy lost it. According to an unnamed witness, Jeremy hurled, quote, every bad word you can think of towards the producer he believed at fault, an Irishman named Oisin Timon, before he had finally landed on lazy Irish and punched the producer in the face. Timon was later treated in the hospital, and even though he told police he didn't want to press charges against Jeremy, the BBC couldn't look the other way this time. It's kind of a rule that you don't punch a producer in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fine rule.
Yeah. Shortly after the incident, the BBC announced that the next episode of the show, set to air on March 15th, wouldn't be broadcast, and it was later announced that the remaining 2 episodes of the series wouldn't air either. Shortly after, the BBC decided not to renew Jeremy's contract. Jeremy later wrote in his column,
everybody has stressful days, and they managed to cope better than I did. And on that bombshell, I'm fired. After the BBC announced that Jeremy wouldn't be returning to the network, things seemed to happen pretty quickly. Andy Willman, Jeremy's school buddy turned executive producer, resigned from the network. The BBC offered both James May and Richard Hammond lucrative salaries to remain on for an additional series, which they both turned down. May stated, me and Hammond with a surrogate Jeremy is a non-starter. It just wouldn't work. Hammond also chose not to renew his contract, which expired days after Jeremy, stating, to be clear, amidst all this talk of us quitting or not, there's nothing for me to quit. Not about to quit my mates anyway. I feel like I'm reading a book on tape. A Change.org petition aiming to reverse the BBC's position was started on March 10th by right-wing blogger Guido Fawkes.
yeah. Like Guy Fawkes, but Guido Fawkes.
Oh, what a cool guy.
Yeah.
Guy sounds fucking cool. The petition reached 1 million signatures by March 20th.
My birthday.
Oh. The petition reached 1 million signatures by March 20th and was delivered to the BBC in an artillery vehicle driven by a man dressed as the Stig.
Whoa.
That's aggressive. At the time, Change.org said it was the fastest growing campaign in the site's history.
Yeah, Jeremy actually did not want to be associated with this guy.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure. As for Jeremy, he did his best, maybe. In March, he apparently told several people at a charity auction that the BBC have fucked themselves, but he also told his fans to stop trolling producer Oisin Tillman on social media and said that what happened wasn't his fault.
Yeah, because he punched him in the face.
What the hell,
Hey,
dude?
it wasn't his fault. I punched him in the face.
Oh my God.
In April, he released his column in the Sunday Times about the so-called fracas. In it, he proclaimed that Top Gear was an all-consuming entity, a many-tentacled global monster that was dysfunctional and awkward and mad, but I loved it with a passion. I loved it like my own child.
I hate my own child. I punch my own child.
I only punch part of my own child. I can't punch the whole child. Not at one time, anyway.
The trick is put a telly guide on the face, and then they don't get bruises.
A few months later, in November 2015, producer Timon sued both Clarkson and the BBC for racial discrimination over the verbal abuse he received. Then in February, Jeremy formally apologized to Timon and settled the claim for £100,000, $119,000 USD. As for the Simonstone Hall Hotel, where the infamous fracas occurred, there's a plaque dedicated to Jeremy Clarkson's dead career.
Wow. That's so British.
Yeah. But did his career really die?
Oh, we're going to find out.
Imagine just being like a producer that has worked a 16-hour day and you can't do anything. The kitchen is closed.
Yeah.
And then
Jeremy,
now
I
you have
want
like
big old
an
steak.
army of like wieners coming at you, threatening you and shit.
Yeah, no, that's really messed up, dude. If there's anything to glean from this episode, it's that Jeremy Clarkson was born lucky. He, alongside Richard Hammond and James May and producer Andy Willman, started the Grand Tour on Amazon Prime, which premiered in November of 2016.
That is the first thing he's ever made that has a decent name.
Yeah.
That's true.
The original title was Extreme Tour with Jeremy's Big Arms.
There have been 4 seasons of the show so far. The first 3 seasons were very similar in format to Top Gear and included car reviews and timed laps, motoring challenges and races, road trip journeys, studio segments, and celebrity guests. The team also kept the studio element, but it was within a large tent that probably smelled kind of musty, if we're being honest. During the first season, the tent was located in different locations around the world, but then became permanently located at Cotswolds.
Cotswolds is a candy store in
Yeah.
London.
Yeah. I liked the traveling tent kind of deal. That was kind of cool that they did that. The show might sound pretty similar to Top Gear, but the lawyers from Amazon were very specific in making sure the Grand Tour was not Top Gear. For example, quote, the lawyers said they could test the cars on track, but they could not post the times using handwritten signs as they had done on Top Gear, opting for a digital leaderboard. Apparently, the hosts also weren't allowed to describe locations as beautiful since they said the word too much on Top Gear.
That's
Wow.
stupid.
That's crazy.
I just realized, is the D list with the handwritten things, is that an homage to Top Gear?
No.
No?
Never heard of it.
Legally?
Never seen it.
Legally, you have
Top
to say
Gear.
no.
Never seen the show.
Never seen Top Gear.
Okay.
What's
Season
D-list?
yeah. Season 4 switched up the format.
that was a symptom of low budgets.
Season 4 switched up the format and focused more on road trips and adventure specials, which I like a lot more.
I like to.
And with episodes released at select intervals. And for example, the first special titled Seaman was set in the Mekong Delta in Cambodia and Vietnam.
It's so good.
It's the best.
It's so good, and he really kind of redeems himself quite a bit with the like just the reverence he had for the conflict. Again, he's like a huge military guy. Great piece of content or media or filmmaking or whatever. The most boomery name ever.
Mhm.
Like, what if we called it Spam? We could say Spam.
Yeah. No, that is seriously one of the best. Like
It's so good.
in the Top Gear Clarkson canon, I think
Mhm.
that's like one of the best things they've
Yeah.
ever done for sure.
Like when I was watching it, there's like a moment where he's driving up the Delta and I like texted, I think you
Yeah.
and a bunch of other people. I was like, dude, he's the best.
Yeah.
He's so good at what he does.
Yeah. Apparently, this episode had a particular effect on Jeremy, as he stated that the, quote, graphic demonstration of climate change impacts in the region were genuinely alarming.
Yeah.
Though he still doubted that it was driven by human activity.
What do you think it's done by? Who does it?
Dinosaurs.
The Labour Party.
The cow's farts.
But then later that year, he called teen environmental activist Greta Thunberg a spoiled brat. So, you know, you got to have balance, I guess. In any case, the Grand Tour has been pretty popular since it began, but due to the pandemic and travel restrictions, filming didn't start up again until the team went to Norway in March of this year. So you got another special coming for you. In addition to Grand Tour, Jeremy has also starred in one season of an Amazon show called Clarkson's Farm, which is pretty much about Jeremy and his 1,000-acre farm in the Cotswolds.
I'm going to find my favorite farm this year.
The cast includes his girlfriend since 2017, Irish-born former actress and screenplay writer Lisa Hogan, who helps run the farm shop.
Who's Hulk Hogan's mom.
Oh. Jeremy also returned to Top Gear at the end of 2021 as he appeared in a special memorial episode for the recently deceased former co-presenter Sabine Schmitz.
Jeremy Clarkson is a complicated figure. His career is filled with highs and lows, cringy foot-and-mouth moments, and random half-assed apologies. Yet, he's the reason that we're here talking to you. He's responsible for opening up car culture to people in over 200 countries worldwide. There's no denying his importance to millions. Something that may be important to remember about Jeremy Clarkson is that he was ruthlessly bullied as a child, so it makes sense why he grew up to be a grumpy old guy with an anti-authoritarian streak. He's a big believer in personal freedom, even though he spent the greater part of his career working for a partially government-funded network who paid him a lot of money. Now, despite that, he believes that the government should build park benches and that's it. They should leave us alone.
They paid you
Yeah.
money.
Perhaps that's why, perhaps that's the best way to enjoy Jeremy himself, to appreciate him for his contributions to the world of motors, but otherwise, leave him alone.
Also, the government pays for the roads that you drive on so you can shoot your show.
Yeah, and especially in England, they like subsidize a lot of the auto industry.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a shithead who's really good at his job.
Yeah.
There
And
you
I
go.
think
He's a little
that's-
short-sighted on a lot of things.
Well, I think he's just a piece of shit. I think he's a huge piece of shit who's really good at one thing, and I don't think that that's enough to like counteract balance. I think you have to really try and be a good person, as well as be good at talking about cars. And I think that because of Jeremy Clarkson, that's what we try and do here.
And I think you get to a point when you're as big as him where you're an authority on something as well, where you kind of stop self-assessing and you're just like, I don't know. I feel like there's so many opportunities where he could have like learned and grown as a person, where he was just like so proud of himself.
Pig-headed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he just didn't think to do it.
So yeah, there's some lessons to be learned here, but
Best who's ever done it.
yeah.
All right, now we got some fan mail from Logan. I've been listening to Past Gas and loving it all since the first episode, and I've
thanks.
never had any criticism to give until I listened to the Danica Patrick episode. Everyone briefly praised Dale Earnhardt Jr. for being a great guy, which I would probably agree with if he hadn't hit on my mom. They both grew up. They both grew up in the same area of North Carolina, and my mom worked as a cashier. This is the mid-'90s. According to her, one day he came through her line and asked her out in a pretty cocky way. She politely turned him down, causing him to spiral into a "do you know who I am" bit. Anyway, that's my Dale Earnhardt Jr. story. Nothing really came of it, but I thought someone at Donut might get a kick.
Yeah, we got a kick out of it.
Wow. Well, thank you, Logan. Dang.
Yeah, I do.
Dale Jr.
Dale Jr., you know who I am? You know who my
I don't think it was
father
like, it probably wasn't like a, do you know who I am? It's
is?
like,
Probably like, hey, you know I'm Dale Earnhardt Jr.
yeah. Something like that, maybe. I don't know.
Anyway, she should have said yes.
Yeah. You'd be writing to us from a large mansion.
Hey, I'm writing to you from a giant helicopter.
Anyway, thank you so much for that fan mail. Thanks for sticking with us since the first episode. That's so, thank you, Logan. Thank you, Logan.
Yeah, thank you, Logan.
And thank you, listener, for listening to this episode. This is a really fun one. What a journey. Follow the boys on all social media at James Pumphrey, at Joe G. Weber. Follow me at Nolan J. Sykes. Thank you very much to our producers this week, Christina Felsky and Gavin Kinsel. And also, everyone who's worked on this show. Thank you to all the Donut staff who have helped us along this long journey. I love you guys so much. I do. All right.
I love you guys so much. I've never seen this man before in my life.